Last week, Alta, Mary Lou, and I were in the office, and I was urging them to complete the questionnaire for the memory album that's being planned for our church's 25th anniversary next year. You can answer any one of several questions, and one of the questions asks, what is your favorite childhood memory? Mary Lou said that one of her favorite memories was catching fireflies. Alta said she remembered her and her sister, neither of them yet old enough to drive, sitting in the front seat of an old car and within their overactive childhood imaginations, traveling many a mile and seeing many sights. And when I look back on my childhood, I realized that one of my favorite pastimes was cloud gazing. It was best done on a summer afternoon when you could lay on your back on the lawn, watch the parade of clouds float by. I delighted in the different images into which they would morph. A dog with long ears one minute, changing into a galloping stallion the next. I could sit for hours gazing into the sky, watching the cloud show. For an 8-year-old boy, it was great fun and a delightful waste of time. And the more tasks that needed to be done, like weeding or mowing, the more appealing was my cloud gazing. In this morning's reading from the first chapter of the book of Acts, we find the disciples actively engaged in their own cloud gazing. Right before Jesus ascends into the heavens, he gives the disciples their marching orders. He's assigned them the task of being witnesses to all the earth of what they have experienced over the last several years. And then, to their utter amazement, he appears to levitate, rising higher and higher like a helium-filled balloon until he was nothing more than a tiny speck in the sky, indistinguishable from the birds flying among the clouds. And I imagine the disciples to be paralyzed by this supernatural experience. Mouths hanging open, staring into the sky, where not seconds before they could have sworn they were looking at Jesus floating. Yes, floating in the air. But it didn't last long. Just as my mother's voice would pull me from my childhood reverie of cloud gazing, reminding me of the flower garden that needed weeding and mulching, our scripture reading describes two men dressed in white clothing, snapping the disciples back into reality with the admonishment, "Why do you stand looking up toward heaven?" It's almost as if they are reminding the disciples that Jesus has given them an assignment and it won't get done by standing around looking at the clouds. And I think this message is a valid one for today's people of faith. If we're honest with ourselves, some of us are way too guilty of spending an excessive amount of time cloud gazing when we should be doing what God has called us to do. And if we were given the freedom to custom design our own spirituality, it might be characterized by more cloud gazing than action. It might include church attendance, at least on Sundays when nothing else was going on. But it wouldn't include too much of our money or energy. Our cloud-gazing spirituality would consist of lots of ideas but not much follow-through. Left to their own, people who make a habit of cloud-gazing don't like to talk about church mission statements because those sorts of things expect us to do things. Popular phrases within cloud-gazing spirituality include, "I'm leaving it in the Lord's hands," or "I'll pray about it," which translated from their code mean, "Don't expect anything from me." In short, cloud-gazing spirituality includes lots of programs as long as someone else volunteers. And lots of church events, as long as someone else organizes them, people whose spirituality is characterized by excessive cloud gazing refuse to be held accountable or responsible. They can't be bothered with the assignment that God has given the church. They are too occupied with cloud gazing.